estate and mortgage show. Your go-to spot for everything home buying, selling, and financing on News Talk 580 CFRA.
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Hello.
That's not Paul Rushforth's voice.
It's so beautiful. Brains, and looks in the studio.
There we go.
Along with us, Greg. It's a rarity, but we have it.
There we go. Hello, everyone.
Dora, welcome back to the show.
Hello.
Awesome
nice
to have
back.
you here as always.
Nice to be back. So I was listening to the show last week, and I heard Greg and Frank saying that Paul didn't bring in some Valentine's Day chocolates for them. So I took it upon myself to bring in some chocolates, Italian for Frank.
Yes, Bacci, beautiful Bacci chocolates, and we all got our fortunes, which we're very happy with. So.
And Bacci, that was new to me. I'd never had one of those before. That was delicious.
So if you're not familiar with a Bacci chocolate, it's the Italian fortune cookie. So
chocolate.
delicious.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dora.
You're very welcome. Anything to butter you up.
Sweet treat. That was wonderful.
All right, Frank, we had some economic numbers come out this week and some job numbers and some interesting...
Yeah, we've had some interesting stuff. I mean, obviously, the big news that hit the headlines was yesterday and the Supreme Court ruling tariffs are illegal, and Donald Trump, of course, says, "Oh yeah, I'll show you guys." And but luckily, it won't impact Canada too much. But don't kid yourself. The tariffs aren't having an impact on the Canadian economy, because they are. Now, I think they're having a greater impact on the U.S. economy negatively, although the leaders don't think so. But the people certainly are speaking like it's having a negative impact, and certain trades are. But at the end of the day, we're in an interesting time here where we're always reliant on our biggest trade partner, which is the U.S., but it sure sounds like other countries are saying, you know what, let's get our own trade agreement together. Mm-hmm. And I think the U.S. is going to be left out of some of these trade agreements, and it's going to work out badly for them, hopefully good for us. But the job numbers are the job numbers. We question them. And, I know I sent you an article, Greg, that I read where, there's certain... certain economists that question some of the numbers that come out, both south of the border and in Canada. In the U.S., I mean, revisions usually add up to anywhere between 600,000 to 1 million jobs per year, where they announce a certain amount of jobs, and then once the revisions come out, those numbers come down tremendously.
Not even close to what was
not even close. So
announced.
It gives that false sense of we're creating jobs when they're really not. And in Canada feels the same thing sometimes, where some of the job numbers are head scratchers, because, a lot of economists get together and they come up with what they think the numbers are going to look like based on what they're seeing. And yet when those numbers come out, they're way out of left field. I mean, one way or the other, and I've seen it both ways. But at the end of the day, you question when Statistics Canada comes out and says that 125,000 Canadians have decided they're not going to join the workforce anymore. So hence why our unemployment rate came down, because somehow 125,000 people got eliminated from looking for work. Otherwise, our unemployment rate would have been higher. So what's the reasoning behind it? I mean, the article suggests that it's political. It's all political, and you need to come across as you're doing what's right for the country, even though on the ground level, it doesn't feel like those jobs are being created.
Yeah.
What are you hearing at dining room tables, Dora, when you're in houses talking to people?
I think that's the difference, right, is what we hear in the news and what we hear from economists. It sort of trickles down to what we see at kitchen tables. And, sitting with people, being in front of families every day, I think there is a sense of this unknown, and whether it's an unknown from predictability of jobs, predictability of environment and economics, and all of that sort of trickles down to consumers feeling comfortable in making that next move. And really, people, we've been talking about it for years, that the cost of life has just increased so much.
And so tremendously.
Right. And then I think, now the impact of that is coming to fruition, because credit card debt, I believe, and you can correct me, I don't really know the details, but credit card debt seems to be extremely, extremely high. And so that...
the actual number, it was in that article that you sent me, Frank.
Yes.
$2.5 trillion in credit card debt. Like
That's what Americans are having to live off of.
Unsecured debt.
To survive. That's what Americans are are trying to live on right now. So
exactly, and so there is this sense of doom and gloom when it comes to economy, but at the same time, you just have to be prepared and make a plan and make a plan for yourself, because the global numbers, the numbers for Canada, the numbers for Ontario don't necessarily come down to cities individually. And Ottawa is a very, very different city. And each neighborhood in Ottawa is a bit different, right? So every single person is feeling the stress of it, but people just deal with it differently.
And the governments need to take responsibility, though, for what's happened here. So, they love to put out these great reports of all the good things that they're doing. And it's almost like a distraction from taking you away from the stuff that they're not doing that they should be doing. And one of the examples, listen, I meet with MPPs. I'm on a couple of government committees, and I meet with MPPs from Ontario, MPs nationally. And one MPP that we met this week, wow, what a great idea. And I said, holy mackerel. So I've talked about the land transfer tax in Ontario. I think it should be doubled from $4,000 to $8,000. Well, he took it a step further. He goes, I think first-time homebuyers should get land transfer tax waived
exempt
altogether.
Yeah.
Like, why are we letting if we're looking to get builders to start building more homes,
right,
we have to entice young Canadians who are buying their first homes, because they're the ones that drive the housing market, which in turn really has a huge impact on the economy moving forward.
Massive.
Well, trades and material
everything,
and jobs and all sorts of things.
Which gives tax revenue. Again, I mean, you take a big parcel of land that you're getting no property tax income from, and all of a sudden you put homes on there, and now your property tax comes up tremendously, and everybody benefits from it, right from municipal government, right to provincial government.
Yeah, we talked about it last week with Charles, development out in, developments out in Rockland. Like, he's holding 100 acres because they're not pushing through his permits.
Right,
so
right.
The tax revenue on
that,
the
not
200 townhomes that he's going to build in there, I mean...
Well, not only the property tax revenue, but the tax you get on all the materials that
that's
are
right.
bought. The
income
tax that's deducted from all the employees
that's
working on there.
I mean,
you look at it, and that's what's good for the economy. And now these people that are working are now going to restaurants, going to buy things, and it's creating more jobs. So that's the way this economy rolls.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to put that into play and not understand it, but I love that idea. I said, oh my God, that's a brilliant idea. Why not waive it for first-time home buyers? And again, he was in agreement. He thinks the 40-year amortization is the way to go for first-time home buyers. One time only.
Right.
As a first-time home buyer, you buy a new home that you're living in, you get a 40-year amortization.
It's just to incentivize people to get into the market.
Well, just to help the housing market grow, because the last thing we want is what happened in the U.S. 18 years ago, 17 years ago, where values came down. And we're starting to see that happening right now across the country, specifically in GTA and GVA. Property values have started to come down. Well, why are we penalizing people that have actually worked hard to build their equity? Now they're going to be penalized by their values coming down. That's going to create chaos. What we need to do, and what the government needs to do, is make sure that they now put themselves in a position where, okay, we need to stop the bleeding. At the very least, we don't want it to go the other way around. We don't want it to go crazy. But at the very least, we need to do something to make sure that the house values remain intact. Especially
in Canada, where our equity in our homes generally is a lot of people's plan for retirement. And with an aging population, it's very, very important. It's critical. Yeah, exactly.
Eroding that equity is not going to help those people.
There's a downward spiral that way. So it's really important to keep the house prices stable. And, what a great way to incentivize people to get in the market.
Well, actually, that's it. We had a listener question come in at realestateandmortgageshow.com this week from Debbie, who asked, if I had an appraisal done on my townhouse in the summer of 2022, do you think the house value would be the same now or worth more? Was Debbie's question.
That's
where she live.
It's an interesting question, right? Because it depends on if she purchased her home from a builder and paid a price in 2021 or paid for the house in 2022. Sorry, that's her equity, but the value really depends on the area of town that you're in. Generally speaking, the values of townhomes are not the same as they were in 2022. We have come down in pricing. We have come down significantly in pricing. And that, so no, the short answer is
likely not.
Likely not. Probably not. But think about all the equity that you have gained in that house. Think about all of the, the months and months, the 5 years or 4 years now that you have been paying down your principal, all of those things come into effect. And, the properties have increased in value in the last couple of years, but we're pretty steady. Likely not, but it will depend on the area.
But 2022 was the peak, right? So
that's the problem, right? If the appraisal happened in the summer, it started to come down already.
Right,
in the
like
summer.
October was a bit slower, and we saw a lot of things coming down. So it just depends on timing and location.
Right. Yeah, we always said it's people that bought in January, February, March of 2022 that probably hit that peak because once April and May hit, that's when Bank of Canada started their aggressive increasing rates, and all of a sudden we saw the whole market retract the other way around, where all the bidding wars started going away. And again, now people started getting scared about where interest rates were heading.
So interestingly, I know it's 2021 v 2022 that we're talking about now, but in March of 2021, 80% of the homes sold in the Ottawa real estate market sold over the asking price. Mm-hmm. Now, there's an asterisk with that statistic. Some of the houses were being priced lower than what the expectation of what the sale was going to be, but still 80% of the sales that happened 5 years ago today happened over asking price. And so it's really hard to gauge where the market is going because the sales weren't necessarily based on data. They were based on emotion, right? And it was a very emotive time for people to buy. They were afraid things were not coming up. And so that artificially gained the price, increased our prices in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a question, head over to realestateandmortgageshow.com or give us a call at 521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Just a reminder, if you have a question and can't call in, just head over to realestateandmortgageshow.com. You can submit your question there, and Frank will get back to the mortgage ones, and Paul and or Dora will get back to you on the real estate side of things.
And I want to thank everyone who sent. There were a few emails with suggestions on topics for us to talk about our upcoming podcast that we're going to launch in the spring, which was awesome. So thank you for everyone. And Kathy McDonald, one of my agents with Mortgage Brokers Ottawa, sent me a number of suggestions in reference to some of the topics and some of the guests that we can have in our studio once we do the podcast.
I know one of the listeners wrote in, Richard, and said, have a tax expert, come on and talk about,
awesome.
Investment properties and the do's and don'ts and the Smith maneuver.
Right, the Smith maneuver, which, again, great concept, just hard to find in Canada because the lenders don't.
Can you explain it, Frank? I don't know that everybody knows what it is.
Yeah, it's basically every time you make a mortgage payment, obviously a portion of it goes to the principal.
Right.
The problem is finding a vehicle, a lending vehicle, that allows you to draw that money now back out, put it into investments, and now it becomes tax deductible. The interest is tax deductible because now you've drawn. So in other words, your mortgage balance never comes down per se, but what happens is your principal that you're building. So if you had a mortgage payment every month of $2,000 and $1,000 went to principal and $1,000 went to interest, this mortgage facility, if you can find it that works properly, that $1,000 that went towards the principal, it would come out. So it would be withdrawn, so you'd still have that mortgage balance, but it would go into a home equity line of credit. And that $1,000 would come out and now go into an investment. So if your investment's growing by 7, 8, 9, 10%, you're making money on the investment and you're writing off the interest. So that's technically the Smith maneuver, which the thinking is that if it grows enough, if that investment grows enough, eventually it outgrows what's owing on the mortgage, and therefore you're able to write off the interest all the time, and then at the same time, you're paying off the mortgage. So that's the Smith maneuver. But it's hard because there aren't lenders.
How many lenders are willing to do that?
There aren't any. They're really very difficult to find, and then even more difficult to find to time it right so that the money comes out. So there's been a couple that are close, but they're not quite what, when that book was written, and, we knew the author who wrote the book. He's unfortunately since passed away, but his thinking was that a bank and or a lender would come up with a product to match that, but they never really did. So
interesting.
So unfortunate, but yeah.
But anyway, Richard, thank you for the suggestion, and we will definitely, everybody that sent in, and please send us more. Go to realestateandmortgageshow.com if you want. If there's guests you want to have here on the podcast or on the show, we'd love to. Love to
in relation to housing and real estate,
not just self-help.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
although we could benefit from that, we could all benefit from that.
Have a little therapy session right in the studio here.
Whatever. The studio is terrific. It's really neat. Like mean, obviously it's a studio, it's soundproof, but walking in it as it's being constructed, you can sort of feel like the walls closing in.
So you did that, Greg. I was going to go by this week. I didn't get a chance, but you were going by on Saturday, I think, right? Last Saturday, right after the show.
I've been in the office. So for those of you who don't know, in our West End office at Paul Rushforth Real Estate, we're building a podcast studio there.
Yes, we are.
And it's a great space.
Yeah.
And our amazing contractor, Vic, has got all the soundproofing and stuff in right now. And man, the sound in that room is amazing already.
It is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, you can feel it. I don't know how you can feel sound, but you can feel it. Just trust me.
So that'll be good. So we're probably looking spring at some point will be where this, construction always goes on time and on budget, as we all know, right? So
I think we're looking at Wednesday afternoons, right? Doing it on Wednesday afternoons. And the reason we picked the Wednesdays, number one, it's in the middle of our show here, so we don't have to wait a whole week to get some of the data. And there are times when the real estate data comes out on Monday. Yep. And now you got to wait till the following Saturday. Well, with the Wednesday, we'll be able to talk about it at the podcast. At the same time, Bank of Canada is usually on Wednesdays. So, again, we're getting all that up-to-date information the day of or within a day instead of having to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 days.
Well, and that's exactly what's going to happen at the end of this month. February 28th is Sunday. The numbers from the board will come out Monday.
That's right.
And we won't be able to talk about them until next Saturday, right?
Stay tuned for the spring. We'll be able to talk about it right away.
So, Dora, how are you feeling about the market, how February is kind of rolling along?
Well, I mean, February is rolling along. We've had some pretty inclement weather, which always contributes negatively to real estate. It's difficult to want to go out when it's snowing and it's freezing and everything else. The wonderful thing is, though, that the cold weather has contributed to a very, very lovely canal season, which I love seeing people out in the canal. It's just such a wonderful part of our community. But really, today, if you're selling in a slower market, it really, really just pays to be strategic. You've got to have a plan. And you've got to be prepared. And if you have a strategy and you are prepared, you're going to win in this market. But you really, really need to have that plan.
Can you give us an example, of a strategy? Like, what would you I know you've had a couple of amazing deals lately. You personally,
well, it's because I'm personally amazing.
Well, of course.
I'm just kidding.
I think Paul rubs off on her a little bit.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but she didn't take a jab at you, Frank.
No,
so
that's nice.
No, I brought you chocolate. The opposite. So I think really strategy has to come down to first and foremost first impressions. And first impressions are not only the state of your house, which I'll get into in a second, but really pricing. Pricing is your first impression. If you can't get people to click on your house because of the price, you are not going to get that exposure. And it's not really a market to try and see what happens. It really is a market to understand the nuances of your individual neighborhood. Each neighborhood is different. Each pocket within each neighborhood is going to be different. And so think of pricing as your first impression. Then go to the things that allow you to make your home that much more attractive for a buyer. And that is declutter, clean, make it feel fresh, open, and inviting. And all of those things don't cost a lot of money. And when we're talking about downward pressure on pricing, it's really, really important that your house stands out from others because the inventory is climbing. And so if you are always, there are 10 homes in your neighborhood and there are always 3 homes that are going to sell in front of yours, well, what can you do about that? Can you change your price? Can you change the quality? And don't rush to market. Have a plan and be prepared and have that first impression be everything. Right. Like from the moment somebody walks in, houses, I always say, are like people. You're going to click with some of them and you're not going to click with others. And you will know. It's a very, very emotional time when you're buying. You're trying, to be calculated and you're speaking to Frank and you're speaking to your mortgage experts and you're making decisions based on everyday cash flow. But ultimately,
you're also excited. You're
excited and your life is changing. And whether life is changing for good or bad, you can't really, when you're purchasing because things aren't so great, that's a different experience. But when you are purchasing or selling because you want to be, that is a very emotional purchase. And so you want the buyer, you as the seller, when now the market has sort of shifted and the power has gone a little bit to the buyer, you want your house to impress people. And the best way to do that is to price it appropriately and to have it ready to go.
Right. And I mean, pricing also must come down to what the seller's needs are. as well. Like if you
yes and no,
if
right?
you've
Like,
bought another house and you need to sell it very quickly, then that's not the time to try a maximum price, I would imagine.
no, I don't think any time in a slower market is a time to try a maximum price. Like the days of let's throw this out there and let's see what the market will bear are
Long
done.
gone.
They're long gone. And if you look at the historical sales data in Ottawa, the sale price, list price to sale price, really falls around 97.6% year over year over year over year. We're a very conservative market. And until your house is priced appropriately, it's just not going to get the looks. Right. And so, unfortunately, the market doesn't care what you need for your house. You have to adjust to what the market is doing. And like the truth is, life doesn't wait for the market to change. And so, whether you are purchasing because of birth, because of divorce, because of new job, because of relocation, real estate keeps moving, whether or not anything different is happening in the economy. And so the best thing you can do is focus on your own personal timing, because the decision you make today to make the right move for yourself is going to far outweigh waiting for the perfect market time tomorrow.
For
Truly.
sure. All right. Have a question, head over to realestateandmortgageshow.com and submit it there, or give us a call at 521-TALK, 521-8255. We will be right back.